Hello, everyone. Welcome to today to the Make Your Mark webinar series. This is our first in our webinar series. This is the first time we're doing this, so be kind to us. Today, we're going to be asking a question. Is effective communication the key to a sustainable world? A bit of a spoiler, yes, it is. So we will be discussing how you can take this information into your business and really help to create a sustainable world through your operations. So just checking participants, we have about 100 people signed up today, which is really great. Yeah, we're hoping to get some engagement. Just before we dive into the content, I just wanted to tell you a story about me, really, and how you'll see how my personal story relates to what we are talking about today. So personally, my name's Dave Carlos, first of all. I'm head of communications at the Planet Mark, and I wanted to tell you kind of what I believe. So I have a deep belief that just one person can make a real difference in this world. I've determined that with my knowledge and my expertise, that my purpose is to give people the tools to really make a world of difference. And those tools are, how to communicate with each other, how to buy better in a way that helps others in the environment, how to tell great stories, because we each have a really great story to tell, and we're the heroes of our own stories. It's because I've translated my beliefs and my values into a purpose that I could choose a company to work for that aligns with my beliefs and values and purpose. So when I heard about the Planet Mark, I was very excited to join because they have a very clear vision. We do now, a vision to empower all people to create a thriving planet. And together we're a collective force for good. So I knew I had found my tribe. This is where I wanted to be, and I can fulfill my purpose here. In my own life, my purpose translates to a lot of different actions. So I try to stay fit and healthy. I volunteer with local charities. All the messages I post on social media are aimed at helping my friends and family live healthy and sustainable lifestyles. To lower my carbon footprint. I generally cook vegetarian meals at home, and when I'm out, when I could go out, I would eat meat in restaurants because I always thought chefs can do it better than I do. I've switched from dairy to oat milk. I take public transport wherever I can in the UK, but I do travel to Canada once a year to see my family, and I ensure that I offset that big carbon footprint with really impactful offsetting schemes. I buy products and services that are not only good for the environment, like less plastic or organic, but I look to buy from companies that really do work that goes beyond the product. Are they reducing their carbon footprint as an organization? Do they improve community and social value? Are they good to their employees, their suppliers, their wider communities through charities and volunteering? And so I look for these things. But I have to say, during the current health crisis, I found a lot of this difficult to do. At first, many local retailers I would normally go to were struggling, and I could only get what I needed from big supermarkets, so my plastic consumption really increased. Also, I wasn't going out as much, so I did buy meat for the home, and because it was in my house, I was eating it. I may have also bought some Nutella, which should never be in my house, I've learned, because that goes very quickly. So yeah, my health and well-being wasn't as great as it could be. I found keeping fit a bit of a struggle, especially to do in my flat. I realized that my flat was organized to live in, but not to work out and to live. So I've rearranged all my furniture now, and that is working a hell of a lot better. I live alone, so I've always relied on friends and family to visit and to be a part of their lives and me a part of theirs. So I didn't think it would be too much of a problem in the first few weeks because we have video calls and whatnot. But I quickly realized that they were making me exhausted, these video calls. I've not been used to this form of communication. I'm not getting the body cues, the little things that our brains pick up to understand people a bit better. So it was a bit stressful, these calls, and also I was feeling a little bit depressed after these calls because reality set in after each one, being like, oh gosh, I'm alone. So I knew things had to change. So after about 8 weeks now in self-isolation, I've changed my habits to fit the new norm. I keep my video calls to less than an hour. I've got some structure to my day. I actually go out, take a walk, and it's like my commute to work. Come back, work for the day. I exercise at lunch or after work. If I can get a grocery delivery, I usually call up my neighbors in my building and even especially some older people in my community and ask them if they need me to add on anything, and I take it over to them. I've joined a local networking group online to help others, but my purpose has stayed the same throughout all of this. I really want to help others to create a thriving planet. So you must be asking, why has he told me all this at the beginning of this webinar? Well, it's because my story from a personal perspective is very similar to companies need to tell. Companies are just like individual people. Companies have beliefs, values, and purpose. They take action in line with those values, and when they don't, they are called out on it. And people recognize that goes against the grain of their values. Many companies have had to change because of the current crisis, and they've had to change their behaviors, their actions, their communications based on what's going on in the world right now. However, if they have a clear purpose, they're able to ride the waves of the uncertain times, and that future-proofs their business. Companies that are still focusing on profit only right now, and you see the ads just from the normal ads coming out, hoping that people will buy their product, they're not going to see their way through to the other side, and you'll see why later in this webinar. And also, businesses communicate in a way that are based on their values. So the moral of the story is to understand your purpose and values, first of all. They will guide you to take the right actions, crisis or not. And they will help you to communicate in a way that helps others and brings others with you on your journey. And lastly, don't be afraid to use your personality in communications. We're all human. I'm not stopping my personality just because I'm doing a webinar. I'm a bit of a fun, casual, quirky guy, and I want people to relate to me. So this is me. What you see is what you get, and companies need to do that too. And also in my story, I didn't just say, "Hey, look at all the great things I'm doing. Aren't I the most sustainable guy in the world?" No, I was a bit vulnerable. And I talked about my challenges and what worked and what didn't work. And companies need to do that as well. By doing this, I've introduced you to kind of my personal brand, and hopefully this has led you to trusting me a little bit more, making me credible about what I'm about to tell you, and also hopefully that you're loyal to me and that you'll stick with me for the whole webinar. Now, if you understand these things, what business doesn't want trust, loyalty from their customers? So today we'll be discussing all of this, and we will also hear the story from Bartlett Mitchell, who are caterers in the UK. I'm very pleased to have Lin Dickens join us today, who you'll hear from later today. And now, just for some housekeeping, I have my wonderful colleague Kendall on the call with me. Kendall, do you want to say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining. My name's Kendall. I'm the Customer Engagement Manager at the Planet Mark. Just a few technical bits from us. So you'll have joined on mute and with no video. And you'll also see at the bottom of your screen a series of icons, and there's a Q&A icon. If you click on that, you should pop up with a little screen, and throughout the webinar, you can just stick your questions in there. We'll keep an eye on them as we go. And if you see anybody else post a question that you agree with or you want to know the answer to, if you could just like that will help us understand which are the most popular questions and prioritize those when we get to the Q&A section at the end of the session. But thank you, and I will hand back over to Dave.
Thanks, Kendall. So let's get right in there. So the first thing we need to talk about is the global picture. We need to know what's going on in our world. How does it relate to business? What are we actually trying to communicate here? So at the Planet Mark, we work quite heavily on trying to end the climate crisis. That's our first and foremost priority. So let's talk about that in the first instance. People and planet. So I find that, especially us in the big cities, we tend to have this kind of disconnect with nature. We have this glass wall, as it were, that we see nature and we love it. We go out and then we come back into it. Like we don't have this great relationship with nature. But in reality, we're so dependent on it, and nature is dependent on us as well. We depend on nature for our food, our water, all the resources that we need in our homes, in our buildings, in our businesses, for manufacturing. Everything we need is in nature. So we really must protect the planet if we're going to protect ourselves. The IPCC, who is the panel on climate change, International Panel on Climate Change, put out a report saying that we have up to 2030, so 10 years now, less than 10 years, to really transform the way that we run our world, our lives, and be less carbon dependent in order to really end the climate crisis. In 10 years' time, we're going to start making some detrimental damage to the planet that we won't be able to change back. So what does that mean? So if we look at our current path, we're on a path to a 4 degrees rise from the time of the Industrial Revolution. So you might know, at the time of the Industrial Revolution, that was the first time we started to really put a lot of like burn coal and oil and put a lot of carbon into the air. We didn't know it at the time, but it was causing a temperature rise. We know it now, it's irrefutable, and we are on a path to 4 degrees. 4 degrees is not great. It's a lot of detrimental things that are going to happen to not just the environment, but to living spaces throughout the world. Large countries, cities just won't be livable. So we need to really not go there. Right now we are at +1 degrees from the time of the Industrial Revolution. Our best case scenario is 2 degrees, and we can definitely do it. As you can see on the left-hand side there, we have naturalists, scientists, and as you will see, financial specialists as well, all saying the same thing. This is the greatest challenge of our time, but if we act now, we can really make a difference. So what is the difference between even 0.5 of a degree, you might be asking? Well, WWF has put out this great infographic. I'll just touch on a couple of them. You can see over here, food production will lower. We'll have more extreme weather, almost doubling there, even just by 0.5 a degree. Species decreasing water availability. These are things that are going to be affecting us as humans every day, and they already are. So let's now look at, those are the environmental effects, but let's look at the response to the climate crisis right now. So you may have seen across the world, millions and millions of students have been protesting, both government and individual businesses, asking us to take action, and rightly so, frankly. We're creating the world that they're going to be adults in, so they have a vested interest in this. We see groups like Extinction Rebellion and Greenpeace, taking to the streets to protest. We have the world's largest investment company, BlackRock, Larry Fink writes a letter to the CEOs of all the companies that they invest in, constantly talking about environmental and social good. And he said climate risk is an investment risk. And so when money talks, the rest of the world listen, and the other investors will follow suit. So companies really need to change there. And of course, Mark Carney, who our CEO at the Planet Mark, Steve Malkin, likes to think of as the next Greta Thunberg. He says, if some companies and industries fail to adjust to this new world, they will fail to exist. And that is absolutely true. This is natural selection of companies, and we're seeing this on a daily basis. Of course, it's not just people taking to the streets, it's people taking to social media, talking about your business, every business, governments, everyone who's in power has some sort of influence, asking them to take change or calling them out on bad behaviors. Of course, this relates to brand risk. This is something in our line of work we do not like, so we need to mitigate this risk. If we look at the effects of climate change on the planet and on us, well, it's funny, I put this slide together, I think over a year or two ago, and I keep thinking, oh, I should change it and update the photos. These are all from the news. But to be honest, I haven't, and that's because these things just haven't changed. They're just getting worse. So for example, we have the Arctic caps melting that leads to a rise in sea levels, so there's flooding. This is Sheffield, it could be anywhere in the UK that flooding's happening quite often now. We have fires raging. This could have been Athens a few years ago, or California, or even Australia this year. Typhoons and hurricanes are massively on the rise because it's a lot warmer. If you think oil spills don't happen, they do quite regularly. So it's not just about the oil that we are using and putting up into the air, it's the oil that we're wasting as well. Insects and bees in particular are decreasing, and that leads to problems with our food production, coral bleaching, as well as health in terms of people. We have health and well-being issues with massive parts of pollution affecting us, loads of protests, as we said, food and water scarcity. This is Venezuela, but this is happening across the planet. So all of these things are adding up, and there are other things that relate to this that we also need to deal with, that deals with sustainability as well. So diversity, inclusion, health and well-being, social value, poverty and living wages, modern slavery and human rights. This is not about the future. These are things affecting us now. Malnutrition, inequality, ecological degradation. The world faces so many complex challenges, and it's clear that many of our fundamental systems are broken. Isn't this all really scary? Aren't you so scared that you should take action? Probably not. You're probably not going to take action if that was the message. Well, this is what we call doomsday messaging. Now, a lot of people can start, when they talk about the problems that the world's having, they can say, we need to change because look at all this bad stuff happening. But what we know in terms of research of what that messaging kind of does is just this. If we use that sort of doomsday messaging, it leads to apathy, to doom, to fear, to denial. It leads to inaction. And that is not what we need. We need people to take quite serious action and to change. And change is never easy for humans. And we know this. There's been loads of research. People don't like change because they think they're going to lose, control, or it might be too much work, or everything seems different. Well, it is going to be different, but we do need to change if we're going to survive, if not thrive. So if the climate is changing, we must change. Also, in terms of our conversations that we have, we need to change those in the way that we talk. At the Planet Mark, we say, it seems that humans have the power to entirely change our one planet. We didn't know that at the time of the Industrial Revolution, but we do know it now. So that is a power that we can use again and really take back our climate. If we use really positive and optimistic messaging, we absolutely know that that is a prerequisite to making change. So we want to encourage not fear and apathy and doom. We want courage. We want people to have a lot of hope and positivity. And this sort of change needs to happen in the mind. And who's in charge of changing minds other than communicators, right? And everything that we say and do. And we can't underestimate what belief does in terms of helping people to change. Surveys have gone out looking, if we want to hear from leaders in our world, the climate experts and young believers do believe that we can avert disaster. And so that is a message that needs to get out, and we really need to help people understand that. So those are some of the global issues. So now let's take it to more of a communication standpoint in sustainability. And as the quote says here, we are the persuaders and the tempters of the world. I'm watching Mad Men at the moment on Netflix. I don't know if anybody's watching that. And I can just see how the thought process goes to creating an ad that, they can convince anybody to buy anything. So we need to do the same thing now, but encourage people to take the right choices and to make the right purchases and change their lifestyles so that we can create a thriving planet. So let's make it desirable. Now, do we have the tools? We absolutely do. A lot of people don't know this, but we do have the technology in order to end the climate crisis. We have nature on our side. You know, rainforests are a great protector of the climate increasing. So we need to help nature. The last part of the equation is people. And it's up to us to help people make the right decisions and to change their hearts and minds. A recent survey from Futera looked at you know, how people felt about this. So 96% of people feel their own actions can make a world of difference. But 88% of consumers want brands to help them do that. You know, so if your brand is not helping your customers improve their environmental and social footprint, then you're in danger of disappointing about 88% of them. And as you can see on the lower part of this, well, you know, companies that get their act together and that are dealing with their own carbon footprint, with their own sustainability issues, I mean, that is absolutely great. And that's not an easy task, but you need to help your customers to be more sustainable. You need to make them the hero of your story in your communications as well. You'll see constantly governments and might be, you know, taking the role of actor and hero. Look at the great stuff that we've done. Aren't you all happy with us? A lot of companies do that as well. But let's make your customer the hero in the story by giving them the tools to live a sustainable lifestyle. So we'll talk a bit on how to do that. And of course, the business case. Whenever I go and talk to a business that, you know, they might be on the fence of, oh, should we do that sustainability thing? Well, I show them this. So just have a quick look while I take a sip of water. So all these things around the outside are things that every business wants. You probably have a business strategy to achieve these things. And also businesses are quite used to working in this economic sphere. You know your market, you know your product, your services, you know it really well, and you know how to make profit. The moment you start to take environmental and social considerations into that business context, you can create a lot more value. So for example, you'll see companies with a really robust business strategy, and then they might come along and create a sustainability strategy. And you'll see that there's alignment between certain things. So for example, of course, in your business strategy, you'll be saying, oh, we have the best offices, you know, to work in. We have a great product, a great team. We want to help, you know, attract and retain the best talent. On the sustainability side, we know that it's not just millennials, but a lot of people want to work for companies that are have a greater purpose for, you know, more than selling something. They want to see companies making progress in terms of environmental and social good. So that's about attracting and retaining talent as well. They will want to work for those companies. So you start to see the touch points between business and sustainability. And the numbers are there that you can, if you start to see those touch points and create strategies that align those, you can create what's known as total value, more value than either one of these two things could do separately, if that makes sense. So that's the business case. Now let's talk about the tools of persuasion that I was telling you about. So there's quite a few philosophies out there, but I'm just going to give you some really quite simple ones. First of all, start with why. This is just that philosophy has changed my whole career. And let's talk to you a bit about that in a second. And after which I'll talk to you about 5 very specific ways so you can sell sustainability in your marketing. So first of all, purpose, which is your why. Purpose-led brands will outperform competitors in the long run. There's loads of research out there from these companies that you see below, and reams of more research that we've done as well. And what is purpose, really? It is more than just selling what you sell or just doing what you do. And we'll show you some examples in a moment. But I have a quick video to show you that should explain it.
What makes some companies more successful than others? It's the way they think and communicate. Most companies start their story with telling you what they sell. Some will also tell you how their product is different. And then nothing. what. That is Simon Sinek's golden circle. The effects? Companies using the golden circle sell more products for a higher.
See, this is where doing your webinar for the first time, you learn things. So I just got a message saying me putting myself on mute, cut out the sound. So I'm just going to play that again. Apologies, everyone.
Enterprise, they think. What makes some companies more successful than others? It's the way they think and communicate. Most companies start their story with telling you what they sell. Some will also tell you how their product is different. And then nothing. Successful companies flip it around. They first tell you why they sell something, because they believe in healthy living. Then how? By handpicking the most nutritious foods. Only then do they tell you what they sell. Fancy a bite? From why to how to what. That is Simon Sinek's golden circle. The effects? Companies using the golden circle sell more products for a higher price, and people like to work for them. Why it works? Our brain is like a golden circle. The outer part does language, ratio, analysis, but the inner part is the one to actually take decisions. It does not respond to language and ratio, it responds to emotions, beliefs, dreams, to why. By communicating from the inside out, you get heard right where it matters, where decisions are being made. So, about to tell your story? Then start with the heart. Start with why.
Super. So if you haven't seen that TED Talk by Simon Sinek, go to YouTube, look up the golden circle or start with why. It's about 7 minutes, I think, and it's really worthwhile. But yes, as you can see from that example, you might have loads of companies out there saying, look how great my apples are. My apples are better, my apples are better. But actually, the company that stands out will say, actually, we believe in healthy living. We take, care by handpicking the best. And by the way, our apples are great. If you just flip it around, people will align with your purpose. So there are many, many companies out there that do that. And there's been, like I say, a lot of research around here that does it. So many those big companies, they use purpose to generate sustained and profitable growth, stay relevant in a rapidly changing world, deepen ties with their stakeholders, and to help with the people-related aspects of business. And we're just going to look at these in a little bit more detail. So first of all, generate sustained profitable growth. There was a bit of research done in 2014 on companies that predicate themselves with sustainability at the core of their service or their product. In here you can see brands that you know. The research then just looked at certain lines of some of these companies that had that sustainability at the heart. Well, they all together were called the Green Giants. They made $100 billion in annual revenue in 2014. They weren't just competing with their peers; they were outperforming them every which way. And so here are some of the things that they did. So you can take a look. Unilever, they've gone through some ups and downs. They do really great things. They put purpose at the heart of their business, but you know what? They are not perfect, just like any other human, as I was saying earlier. And it's about telling a complete story. What are the challenges? What worked and what didn't? So some of the things here are really, really quite interesting. Next, stay relevant in a rapidly changing world. Oh, this is my favorite brand story. Your vision has to be the right one. So Kodak's vision was to be they aimed to be the best photo film, chemical, and paper business out there. And you know what? Boy, were they. They were the absolute best. So when the digital revolution came around, they had years to get on board with it, but they constantly said, no, what does that have to do with, our vision over here? If they had only said, we are in the business of making memories last, they would still be around today. They would embrace the digital revolution. So your purpose really helps you to stay relevant. Deepen ties with stakeholders. So here's Dove. Their deeper belief, their purpose. So they say that we believe beauty should be a source of confidence and not anxiety. What they did was they did this campaign and got loads of information back from their customers, challenging the language and the visuals around beauty. And then they put these massive billboards across the world challenging that only after engaging with their stakeholders. It had a different perspective in different countries as well. They then took it further, and their Real Beauty campaign that they came up with, they went into schools talking to girls about self-esteem. And do you know what? They had success in 80 countries. They were the leading beauty bar in 80 countries, and they're now a $4 billion business. Lastly, how does purpose help with the softer side of businesses? So purpose helps to unify the organization. If you have ever been part of a company that has bought another business and brought them in, or you have different parts of your business, having a sole purpose will bring everyone together. Motivating your stakeholders, well, of course, there's a lot of people just don't trust a lot of different organizations, but if you want to bring people together, especially your employees, what better way than for a higher cause? You may see this in minor ways, like a charity drive or something that brings people together because people want to be a part of something bigger than just selling stuff. And broadening impact. It helps you to define and contribute to society as a whole. It lets you see opportunities that wouldn't normally exist if you just focused on your economic considerations of your business. So that's why. Always start with why, whether it be your whole corporate message or an individual tweets that you're putting out. Lead with why you're doing this. Why are you communicating? Then how and what as well. So in Simon Sinek's TED Talk, he talks about Dell and Apple and why Apple seems to be able to sell a lot more different products than just Dell, who sells computers. Both really capable of selling multiple different types of products. But anyway, I'm ruining it for you. Go see that TED Talk. So lastly, make it work. Sorry, we want to talk about the 5 ways to sell sustainability in your marketing. So the first one is to make it work. Your product or service, it could be the most sustainable in the world, but you know what? It has to work. It has to be the best product on the market for people to buy it. So this is, I won't show you the video, but you can look it up. There's a video by Seventh Generations. They have a whole bunch of parents and kids using the cleaner to clean a table. They then put a cake down right on the table, and the parents are there just letting the kids go nuts and eating it right off the table. And you can see that little girl just licking it, yum. And it just shows, what, without toxins, they're able to kill most of the bacteria. And by the way, look just over here, it's powered by plants. It is a sustainable product. It's a by the way. Next, be bold and be brave. So as it says, the best brands don't think of themselves as companies first, but as rather as agents of change. So Patagonia is a clothing company. Their brand is really predicated deeply about helping the environment. So when there was a climate march in where the head office was based, the CEO closed the doors and said, right, all my employees go out there, be loud and visible in the streets. And that got them, not just a lot of attention on social media, but also by the media itself. They couldn't stop talking about how great Patagonia was for enabling their employees to be these agents of change. Thirdly, you got to make sustainability easy for your customers. And it should be something that enables the consumer to be part of the purpose without too much effort, because frankly, sometimes they just want to buy a product. So Tom's is a really good example of this. They have really great shoes, environmentally friendly, and they say for every 3 pounds they make, they give away 1. But where does that 1 go? Well, they have a whole section of their website. In fact, they only give you 2 options when you go to their website. Either shop with them, or you can see the impact that you have by shopping with them. Really simple, and they're really quite clear on where your money is going to help change lives of millions of people. When I say make it easy, this can also relate to messaging that you put out in your offices. So I'm sure we've all seen these sort of bins with really complicated signage, as you can see below. Oh, I can't even read that. What does that say? Oh, what is this what kind of plastic is this? I don't know. People don't care about their waste, frankly. And then there's a really big sign up there. You're saying go green. What does that even mean? I don't understand. You know, it doesn't motivate me to do anything. How about if we put a lid on it, literally? Let's label this landfill. So now I'm walking over and I have this rubbish. I have to physically lift up a lid and look at this and say, right, that's going to landfill. I'm going to feel bad about that. It has an emotional response. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go over to the recycling bin and choose the right bin. So let's make it easy for people and difficult where it needs to be, if you know what I mean. 4, very controversially drop the word sustainability. Now, this is a word that has become very used in our society, and it doesn't really mean a hell of a lot anymore. So unless you're talking very broadly about sustainability, I would suggest that you don't use it. Here's an example. If you ask someone, do you care about sustainable agriculture? You might get, oh, I don't know. But if you ask someone, do you buy local food when you can? Oh yeah, I love a farmer's market. It's not about just the word sustainability, it's about the imagery too. So please stop using this imagery. Unless you're a garden center, we shouldn't be using a sapling in the hands, okay? It makes sustainability fluffy, not that important, and it's not. These are serious issues. So let's make it concrete, let's make it real. So here's an example report about rising sea levels. If this report, I don't understand really what this water droplet in the world means. It's too intangible. It doesn't really make me feel anything or take action. If I showed images of where the sea level will be in 2050, I'm like, okay, well, I better pay attention, read this now. So let's make it concrete and real. Lastly, 5, make it sexy. And this is what we're good at as marketers and communicators. Make sustainability so desirable it becomes normal. Little quote from Futera there. Be fun, quirky, trendy, clever, charming, and have fun with it. This is my favorite example. It's from a few years ago, but Intermarché is a supermarket in France, and they wanted to reduce food waste. Well, I have a video to show you exactly what they did, so take a look. And I won't mute myself.
Fruits and vegetables are facing an absurd situation. On one hand, people are encouraged to eat at least 5 a day, a lot of money for families. On the other, we throw 300 million tons of it away each year.
Tout ce qui rentre pas dans la norme, c'est poubelle.
As the European Union made 2014 the European Year Against Food Waste, Intermarché, the 3rd largest supermarket chain in France, decided to rehabilitate the non-calibrated and unperfect fruits and vegetables. So we launched Les Fruits et Légumes Moches, the inglorious fruits and vegetables, starring the grotesque apple, the ridiculous potato, the hideous orange, the failed lemon, the disfigured eggplant, the ugly carrot, and the unfortunate clementine. Now, you can eat 5 inglorious fruits and vegetables a day. As good, but 30% cheaper. How did we do it? We bought from our growers the products they usually throw away and sold them in stores. They got their own aisle, their own labelings, and their own spot on the sales receipt. For people to realize that they were just as good as the others, we designed and distributed inglorious vegetable soups and inglorious fruit juices. And it worked. Our new kind of fruits and vegetables were an immediate success. We faced only one problem, being sold out. 1.2 tons average sale per store during the first 2 days, plus 24% overall store traffic. This initiative increased awareness about food waste.
Mais c'est très bien ce que vous faites. C'est très bien. Il y a assez de gâchis comme ça.
It created a lot of conversation in social networks. Over 13 million people reached after 1 month, and had a big impact in the media. Finally, journalists suggested that every supermarket in the country should do that.
Et moi, je milite pour que ça continue, que ça soit dans tous les supermarchés.
Bonne idée.
The inglorious fruits and vegetables. A glorious fight against food waste.
I really enjoy that every time I watch it. So there you go. Let me go back one before we talk to Lynn, pardon me. So that's our top tips. Obviously start with why. It's really important. You get your message across right at the beginning, make people feel something. Then of course, make it work. Be bold and brave, make it easy. Drop the word sustainability and don't use the hand in sapling anymore, please. And make it sexy, of course. Now I'd like to talk to Lynn from Bartlett Mitchell, and you can see how purpose relates to the communications and actions that they put out. So Lynn, hi there.
Hi Dave.
Hey, let's hear from you. Let's hear your story, please.
Okay, well thank you very much, and thank you for a brilliant presentation, a tough act to follow. So Bartlett Mitchell's purpose and values. I've been with Bartlett Mitchell for 20 years. And they are still true to their values today as they were when they started. So it was two people sitting around a kitchen table. They had worked for a corporate organisation, and they decided, after having been at a board meeting and realised that food had not been discussed once, that they wanted to set up a business that had food at its heart. And their purpose was to make a positive difference to everyone's day, and that would be all stakeholders. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that translates into real life. So another thing that struck me this morning is that everyone at Bartlett Mitchell does know the values, and it isn't because we've learnt them, it is truly because we live them. So our values spell out the acronym, which is rather handy, foodies, and I've put that picture on the top left there, some of our chefs, because we're a restaurant company. We've shut down 85% of our restaurants now. So that was the last time that I was actually with a group of chefs. So it's a very happy memory for me. So how does that translate into what we do? Well, we want people who work for us to all enjoy what they do, because if you're happy doing your job, so if you're a chef, you put that extra little bit into what you're cooking. If you're in service, we all know the difference between a great service experience and not such a great one. So if you're loving what you do, that is infectious, and it ripples out into customers and the experience that they have. Also, if you're happy, so I'm in marketing, you're more creative and you're more innovative. And like attracts like. So the supplier partners that we work with also share those values, and they want to be part of that. So serving great food is summed up by obviously the creativity of the chef, but it starts off with really good ingredients, and it's about creating healthy food that's sustainable. We don't create dishes that are packed full of sugar. We look at, where do the ingredients come from? Our purchasing director, Steve, is really robust about the looking into the whole chain. And in fact, we're the first contract caterer to sign up to SEDEX, which is an ethical trading platform. And it's not because we think, oh, that's a good thing to do because that will attract customers. It's because it is the right thing to do. We want to know that everybody who's involved in our supply chain has been treated fairly and has been paid the correct amount of money. So the reason for the images on the top right hand side of the slide is just to give a little example of that. I was lucky enough last year to go to Nicaragua, which is where our coffee is farmed. It's a fair trade coffee, and I wanted to see the difference that fair trade coffee makes to people's lives compared to just normal coffee. And I met a group of women there standing holding some biscuits, and they're the ladies also in the picture below raking the coffee. And what they told me was that their income is only for when the coffee's raked, and they need to have an income all year round to provide for themselves and their families. And so I said, well, what could make the difference? And they said, well, we make these biscuits at home, but we can't ramp up production enough to make this a sustainable business, but we know we could sell more. So I said, well, you know, have you got a business plan? They said yes. I said, well, could you share that with me? So when I got back to England, they sent it to me, and they outlined what the investment they would need to make a biscuit factory. So we at Bartlett Mitchell have raised the money, and my colleague Miguel went to Nicaragua last month and laid the first stone for the biscuit factory. So why this is important is because customers want a great coffee, and our coffee is just about to be graded as a Q grade. So it is phenomenal. It is a specialty coffee. But also customers get to find out that they are making a huge difference, because I've seen the healthcare, the life expectancy that these ladies now have, their families, they're going to university, they're having a better education. And that's all because somebody's chosen to buy one coffee, a fair trade coffee, as opposed to another coffee. So that's a little case study. So how does that translate to communications? Well, we're open and honest. The second O in foodies is for open and honest. It's about being authentic. So going right back to that first purpose, which is about making a positive difference to everyone's day. When we realized the severity of the COVID situation, the first thing I did was I reined in the quantity of posts that we put. And I said that no post should be posted if it didn't make a difference to someone's day. So that could be about something small and uplifting. It could be something tangible, like how do you make sourdough? Now, I know everybody said, oh, I'm sick of sourdough, but you see lots of stuff. But what you don't see is what happens when it goes wrong. So we've done lots of videos of all those things, like cracked bottoms or saggy tops, or it doesn't rise enough. So, and these have all been done by our chefs, real live chefs, who say, look, this is what happened. Have you tried this? Have you done that? And reassurance. You know, I wanted our post to be part of that sort of national collective effort, because this is a really tough time for people. They don't want to be sold to. So that was the other thing, is none of our posts linked back to our website. Now, prior to that, obviously the social media was all about driving traffic to our website, and that wasn't the right thing to do. So none of these posts went to our website. These were all about education, entertaining people, or you know, uplifting or informing them as well. So how will that change now? It won't change, because our values haven't changed. This is the same way that we've always been communicating. So we're going to continue to be open and honest, and we're going to be gauging all the time, how best can we help people? So yesterday we ran webinars to show clients how to use Zoom properly. So that's nothing to do with food, but it goes back to our purpose, which is making a positive difference to everyone's day. It's something that people, our clients, need now. So we need to look at ways, how can we help them? So I hope that's been useful. Happy to take any questions at all. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Lynn. It's a wonderful story. You've been a Planet Mark member for, gosh, I actually should have looked this up. I don't know how many years now.
We're into our second year, end of the second year now.
So that, you know, you're making such a positive difference environmentally and with people here. It's great to see your purpose come to life in this sort of way, and just shows how, especially in times of a crisis, having a purpose and understanding it and living and breathing it really helps your business.
And it guides your, you know, if you're asking yourself, what should we be doing this? You're benchmarking it back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's a good benchmark, as you say. Good. So if you can just stay on, Lynn, I'm going to bring Kendall in as well. Hi, Kendall.
Hello.
Hi there.
Yeah. Hey, we're ready for some questions, I think. I would echo exactly what Dave said, and I love that story about the Nicaraguan biscuit factory. Amazing. So we've had some questions come through. Thanks everyone for posting. I'll quickly answer Denise's from the chat. So we will be sharing the recording and the slides afterwards. And for Dave and Lynn, can you give advice on how marketing and communication directors and their teams can incorporate sustainability communications into our current plans?
Ooh. Do you want to take it, Lynn, or should I?
Well, you start while I think.
Well, it's looking for those touch points, really. And if you're going to drop the S word, you're going to look for the things that are very particular to your business. So if you're a food company, it's about looking at health and well-being, nutrition, fair trade, organic. You're going to have loads of different communications out there, encouraging people to buy your food, for example. Maybe I should have let Len take the food example here. But it's finding those touch points and bringing the sustainability, again, drop the word, the S word, add the sustainability aspect in there. The last company I worked for, they did a lot of sports in the company. We were a property consultancy, but we did loads of sports, but they wanted to show this is a part of our sustainability program to encourage health and well-being in our employee base. So you would see all the marketing go out for it, internal marketing rather, with posters and information. And at the bottom, it would just say the name of our sustainability strategy. And so people got this, yes, okay, that's a part of that.
I would say it is to do with what is it you're actually doing. So if you have a tangible, then you could tell the story around what that is. So you'd have to know what it is, what is it you're doing, and then what makes that the S word.
Great. Kendall?
Thank you. And
we're a little short on time. That is completely my fault for talking too much. So maybe just pick one or two pertinent ones, and I will absolutely get back to on everyone when we do a roundup as an answer to all the questions.
Thank you. I'll make sure the rest are captured if we don't answer them. So how can we continue to effectively communicate our sustainability aspirations during the current health crisis?
Well, I think we covered a lot of that, but again, it's looking at what your purpose is. Now at the Planet Mark, we run a purpose workshop to help companies find it, but if you look online, there's ways that you can do it yourself. And it's always aligning things back to that. So at the Planet Mark, our purpose, actually, I'll just flick to it because that's the next slide. We say we see a world where we all contribute to a thriving planet, and together we're a collective force for good. Actually, this is a good way to explain this. What do we actually do? We're a sustainability certification. And right now, we know that we're not going to be able to get a lot of companies on board with the certification bit because times are tough and people are focusing on other things, and rightly so. So we are doing webinars like this, for instance. We've changed the way we are going to help people to create, to achieve that purpose, to create a thriving planet. We're looking at, we created a home, working from home package. We're doing all sorts of things, but we're changing our business model to fit our purpose. And any crisis that comes up, we always go back to our purpose, as Lynn said.
Is it all right if I just jump in and just say, on the anonymous attendee, what is one way we can encourage decision makers in our businesses to start thinking about sustainability more seriously? I would draw attention to the slide that Dave showed earlier, and if you look at successful companies, they do have sustainability at their core. And I think more than ever, I don't want to say after this crisis because we don't know how long it will last, but as a result of this, I really believe that people will look much harder and judge us much more on the way that we've conducted ourselves through this. So I think if you're not doing it for ethical reasons, from a business perspective, you will be judged very toughly. And there is lots and lots of evidence to support the view that I have there. And companies who aren't taking it seriously really need to take a long, hard look at themselves.
Thank you, Lynn. I think that probably brings us to 3 questions. Sorry, we haven't had longer, but I'll make a note of those remaining and try and answer some of them if they're quick answers now. Dave, do you want to wrap up with a few final words?
Yes, I will do. So I just want to quickly talk a little bit about the Planet Mark and what we're doing to support our members and the wider community. Just a bit about us. We've talked about our purpose and mission. I talked about people, technology, and nature earlier. It's really much our part of our approach. We know that applying the very best of people, technology, and nature, we can radically reduce carbon and end the climate crisis. Everything we do is on this three-prong approach. So from the Planet Mark, like I ran to the Planet Mark when I knew that they do this. It's a well-rounded, holistic approach and makes it really simple for any company to get on board with. For those of you who are members, you know that we measure a couple of things. We measure carbon footprint. We can also put a financial value on the intangible things that a company does in terms of the social value, which helps you to plan strategically over time. Everything from internships and work placements to volunteering to really, I think, the sexy part of the Planet Mark. And of course, a really robust report that you get. Next, we help you to engage your staff. We give loads of toolkits and talks and webinars and events like this. We give 12 tickets to the Eden Project every year for any company who achieves the Planet Mark. So you can go to the Eden Project, connect with nature, and really understand what's going on in our natural environment. And of course, we also give a 1 acre protected, a rainforest protected in Peru, working with the charity Cool Earth. Lastly, we help you to communicate. We give you loads of different marketing materials in order to communicate your great success. There's an annual awards to really shine a light on the best and the bright. We also help to align our certification with the Sustainable Development Goals run by the UN. So there you go. Going beyond, there's some other ways that we can help beyond the certification. We have a very simple overarching approach to sustainability, which today we've talked a lot about purpose and vision and communication. And I've talked to you a little bit about the other things we do. But all the while, if you're going to create progress, you have to align that with your values, because that's like your moral compass. Here are some of the things we do as well. So like I said, we do purpose and vision workshops. If you'd like to understand your purpose, get in touch. We also can help a business go to be carbon neutral. We also have a really robust program called 0 by 30, which helps you to reduce all your carbon by 2030 to meet that decade of action goal. We have lots of different workshops from strategy development. If you don't have a plan in place, we can help. And also, of course, communication planning, helping with engaging your employees, sustainability reporting, and we do a lot of delivery too in terms of comms. So we're here to help any way possible. A little bit about us, if you don't know, this is just a selection of some of our members. We're very proud to have a lot of these logos on this page. There's a lot of brands in here you'll recognize, but also a lot that you don't, and they're generally the suppliers of the ones that you do. So it's a really great community to share best knowledge and practice and to share business as well. Lastly, just to say, because the Planet Mark aligns with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, we are a part of a decade of action. We want to help the world help end the climate crisis by 2030. It's our biggest mission, and we're here to help you do it. So this is just one of the assets we give to our clients. Just to wrap up, that's us. Kendall and myself. Those are our email addresses. I'm Dave Carlos. That's Kendall Archer. I feel like I'm on a news desk. This is great. And Lynn, thank you so much for joining us. I just want to end by saying, yet again, you have the power to make a world of difference. Please make that choice to do so. And that's it. Thank you very much.